This happened a while ago, and I still think about it sometimes, because it was one of the creepiest things I've ever experienced. I was out dispersed camping, not at a campground, but deep in the woods, miles from anything. Just me and one other person, completely alone with no cell service, no other campers, nothing. It was quiet, peaceful, until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, we hear this blood-curdling scream. And I mean scream, the kind that shoots straight through your body and makes your stomach drop. A woman screaming like she was being murdered, over and over again. We froze. I grabbed my gun and walked up toward the dirt road that led into the woods. It's not a proper street, more like a rugged access path barely wide enough for a truck. And that's when I saw her, a woman, completely naked, walking slowly down the path, barefoot, dirty, still screaming. At first I thought she'd been attacked, maybe escaped something horrific. My heart was racing. I was ready to help. But as she got closer, I realized that something was very wrong. She was beautiful young, probably in her 20s. Strong build, maybe Samoan. Not fat at all, just solid and powerful. But her eyes were wild. She was talking to herself, muttering incoherently, totally detached from reality. She walked right into our campsite without saying a word and sat down in one of our camp chairs like she belonged there. Then she picked up a big rock and started holding it in this weird, threatening way, almost like a weapon. What happened next, honestly, disturbed me more than the screaming. She started pressing the rock between her legs, trying to have sex with it right in front of us, still talking to herself, totally gone mentally. At that point, we were both just frozen. I didn't know if she was going to attack us or what. Then she suddenly got up and tried to climb onto my friend, physically. Not in a playful way. It felt aggressive, unstable, like anything could happen next. We grabbed what we could and got in the car, drove down the mountain until we finally got enough signal to call the police. They came out eventually and took her away, but I never found out what happened to her or where she came from. She just appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the woods. I didn't sleep at all that night, not a wink. Without delving too much into programming and wilderness therapy in general, I do have to explain certain aspects of the job, so bear with me, because none of these kids are voluntarily in the program. Some are a flight risk to minimize the success of potential runaways. Staff are required to sleep under an open tarp and between the doors of the tents. Often our setup looked like two tents facing under a large A-frame tarp with staff sleeping between. Another precaution is called boot line. The kids' boots stay lined up under gear tarp at night. Hard to run in your camp Crocs. Anyhow, this boot line is visible from under the sleeping tarp. So this particular night we were camped in some of the most far-flung areas the program goes to. We simply referred to it as Parkway Expo, because our expedition often begun with being dropped alongside the Blue Ridge Parkway and hiking into the rugged wilderness that surrounds it. It's a spot called Wet Camp Gap. From the sleeping tarp, I can see the boot line across camp in the direction of my feet. It's my job to wake up once every 3 hours for silent head count. I wake up for my 3 a.m. check and turn on the red filter on my headlamp. I have a weird feeling. I first scan boot line. Something isn't right. 13 pairs of boots. I'd say take some time to register. Usually when something doesn't feel right, there's a pair or two missing and a kid or two gone. And there's only 12 kids. At the end of boot line, there's a pair of tall men's hunting boots. Staff boots aren't kept there. As this dawns on me in my sleepy haze, I snap to reality, sit up, and switch to my white light. It casts light across the camp, and the second the light fell on the hunting boots, the man who had been standing in them the whole time suddenly turned and walked off into the brush. That was a moment of sheer terror as I jumped up after him. He was long gone by the time I wiggled out of my sleeping bag. The following day, we were packing up and making breakfast when a group of 3 men walked through the field we were in. The trail runs right through it, so it's not unusual, but they came out of the woods from a strange angle perpendicular to the trail. I was over in the far corner of camp with one co-instructor doing a daily briefing when they entered just a few yards away. They stopped and looked at us. All were armed. I recognized one's boots immediately. "Gave me a scare last night," I said. None spoke, only stared blankly. "You guys okay? You lost?" Still no response. The situation feels uneasy as they stare at us, gaze unbroken. "Here, let me show you my map." It's already in my hand. I get up from the stump I'm sitting on and approach. The trio suddenly turns and walks on across the clearing and out of view. I was glad we were moving the opposite way and only had one more night till our pickup and transport to base camp. That final night, we're all sound asleep, about 2 a.m. or so. The night is broken by a blood-curdling scream. It's my female co-instructor. She's frantically running her fingers through her hair and completely inconsolable. I get her away from the group and calm down enough to speak. She says she woke up to what she assumed was a large spider or a mouse in her hair. But when she turned on her headlamp, she was greeted by the face of the tall, booted hillbilly in night vision goggles. He'd gotten almost a full braid in before she woke up, and he fled. We never saw any more of them, but she never came back for another shift either, the poor thing. A few weeks later, the local S&R found a woman who'd gone missing nearby. She'd been accosted by a man and tied to a tree, then left there. She was found alive something like 4 days later, still bound. This past summer, my partner and I were camping in the Adirondack. We found a great, privately owned little backwoods campsite that consisted of just 2 lots. Accessible by car, 4-wheel drive required. Right by the water. Very peaceful and secluded. It looked great on the website. When we arrived, we went to the owner's house up on the main road, and they provided the instructions on how to reach the site. When I tell you the owner's house was creepy, I mean, it was creepy. It was a trailer home surrounded by the weirdest garbage. Empty fish tanks, dirty old children's toys, doll heads, disfigured scarecrows. Proper spooky shit. Our alarm bells were already going off. Turns out, accessing the site required at least 15 minutes of straight off-roading, though they assured us the path had been well cleared, and we took confidence from the many positive reviews we had seen for this site. We set out down the grass path to our site. As we progressed down the path, it became increasingly clear that The route was, in fact, not easily passable by car. It had been a rainy summer and the ground was slippery mud and knee-deep puddles. The overhanging branches were barely cleared, as if the owners hadn't cleared it for a year or two, and the path narrowed considerably the further we went. By the time it was clear that things would only get worse, the path had become way too narrow to turn around, and the chances we could reverse our truck the whole way, approximately 15 minutes of steeply sloped off-roading conditions, seemed equally impossible. At one point, when we were assessing the path on foot, I noticed what was a very, very clear human footprint in the mud, a bare foot, definitely not either of ours. It still gives me the shivers to think about. Regardless, having few other options, we pushed forward until we eventually reached our site. Frankly, I'm amazed we even got there. It was around 8:30 and we were tired, so we decided just to stick it out, set up camp, and leave in the morning. But neither of us slept that night. The site absolutely seemed like it could have been a secret hangout for drug addicts or worse. Given the owners, it was also possible this whole site was a setup to rob campers in the night. We didn't tell each other until the morning, but we were both strategizing escape routes in case we were descended upon by unsavory characters. Problem was that it proceeded to rain all night, and there was a very real possibility we wouldn't be able to drive back out on all the mud given the conditions of the path. There was a very real possibility we were going to need to call for an emergency rescue/tow out. But the thought of being stuck in that creepy, secluded site for another night, or more, until whenever it stopped raining and dried out, was way, way worse than paying the premium to get out. So in the morning we trekked up on foot, assessed the route, and decided to make a go of it. By some miracle, and my partner's driving skills plus a beast of a truck, God bless you, Ford, we got out. I think we were both nearly in hysterical tears when we saw the main road. We drove our exhausted, dirty, delirious asses to the nearest coffee shop, a Dunkin', a treat for us Canadians, and celebrated over mediocre coffee and breakfast sandwiches while we booked a motel for the rest of our trip. Moral: trust your gut. We should have turned back when we both got red flags from the owner's vibe. Then we should have turned back when the path first became a bit rough. We will pick our sights more carefully next time.
Now remember, keep your lights on and your doors locked. Then subscribe for more horrifying true stories.